BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting. Earliest odds to in-game live betting. BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. Largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, MMA. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. And we welcome you to another edition of Believe in Giants. Bob Papa, two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks. Did you enjoy a Sunday without Giants football?
I enjoyed a Sunday without football, period. I I went to the St. John's basketball game at the Garden. Then I had some food, and that was my Sunday. I probably watched maybe a half of the Sunday evening football game, and that was it.
I took Max to Hershey Park, and it was a perfect day. Not cold by any stretch of the imagination, cool and comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the rides weren't open, but there were plenty that were open that we liked.
Cool.
And 32 rides in 7 hours.
That's awesome.
8 spins on Candemonium.
That is a full shift. 7 hours at an amusement park.
And I recovered with my Charabundi. Even though they're not sponsoring right now, I'm still drinking the stuff because I love it.
There we go.
So, recovering. Giants fans are recovering, trying to recover from what was a debacle in Germany. And I don't think it's any great surprise when the news broke that Daniel Jones was being benched and Tommy DeVito is now the starting quarterback for the Giants. Jones is the third-string quarterback, which is, listen, it's not personal at this point. It's business.
Yeah.
And he's got to be the third-string quarterback. Now, people have said to me, third string? Why is he the third string? I'm like, listen, it's a business. And then I see fans on our timeline, I thought it was a football decision. They can't come out and say, we're not playing him anymore because there's a $23 million injury settlement. Because as far as I can tell, that becomes an immediate grievance by the NFLPA. You can't take a guy who's been your starting quarterback and then just relegate him to third when you know that he's better than the other two guys on your roster. You can't come out and automatically just say, we have to make him inactive and the third-string quarterback because of the injury clause, because the union would immediately file a grievance. So it's a cat and mouse game. It happens all the time.
Sure. And here's
that's where we stand.
The other part of that, the Giants aren't taking $23 million away from him. That's not his money unless he gets injured. So they are preventing having to pay $23 additional million with a injury clause there. But I think the decision was made not just because they wanted to not have him get injured, because that could have happened in the first part of the season, and they would end up having to pay it. But I think they just needed a change. They needed a different energy around the team. And, they made that decision. And, it's time for Tommy DeVito. Here's what I will say, though. The Giants fully intend to play to win. I know a lot of fans are wishing that things just continue to go the way they're going with a lot, defeats every game, but that's just not how it works in the NFL. And this is not a situation where you can press reset like you're playing Madden and start all over again. There are real humans with jobs and livelihoods at stake here, and they have to play to win. And I would expect them to play to win, to coach to win, because you have a lot of games left on your schedule. The worst thing you can do is go out there and continue to not improve and get to a point to winning football games. It's the worst thing you can do. And I don't think anyone wants to do that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, with some of the efforts that they've put up, some have been good efforts. Other performances have not been good. You put up five really horrific performances over the last 7 games. You're going to be unemployed.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter what John Maris said the night of the screening of the Duke, the Wellington Mara documentary.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter. Like, it's still a results business, and they are very cognizant of the paying fan. The Giants are
Mhm.
very cognizant of you out there, the season ticket holders, or those of you out there that will get an opportunity to buy tickets from a friend or go on the secondary market and wear your Giant gear. They're very cognizant of the fact that they want to provide a good product for you on the football field. Because
And
I had mentioned to somebody, I said, that DeVito magic last year cost you an opportunity to potentially get one of these quarterbacks that was in the draft.
mhm.
And, it was relayed to me, you can't play it that way. We got customers that are paying tickets for these games.
Right.
We owe them a good effort and trying to win the games. That's why they come to the games. They don't come to the games to watch us lose. They
Mhm.
come to the games to watch us win. And we owe it to them to try to give them the best product that we can give them.
Players have jobs. Coaches have jobs. Nothing is guaranteed beyond the season that you're playing. Players don't have guaranteed contracts beyond the season that they play. They all have signing bonuses, but their salaries are guaranteed the year that they are playing. Um, but the thing is, I like when I was thinking about this, and I'm reading a lot of stuff on my timeline, and there's a huge group of opinions that, hey, let's just suck and let's lose the rest of these games so that we could be in line for quarterback X, Y, and Z, whoever that may be. Um, and I thought about that, and obviously that's not my constitution. I would never agree to it or allow that to happen if it were a team that I was playing on. And then I said, how do I frame this in modern day um, scenario? And I said, if Mike Tomlin was coaching this team and they had 2 wins, do you think the thought in his mind would ever cross to tank so they can get better players, or to go out and try to win every game that's left on the schedule so that you're building something for the next season? Like I don't, again, our fan base, the Giant fan base, has been bludgeoned. But the reset, just it's not reset just to reset, but the reset to start all over again is just not a good recipe if you don't have anything going into that reset. You've got to have uh, an idea of the type of players, you want to talk about culture, lose the rest of these games and think that they're going to flip the switch and become winners again. You look at the teams that have turned it around. Jaden Daniels, yeah, he's a difference maker in Washington. But don't forget, even under Ron Rivera, Washington continued to compete, and they actually made playoffs with no quarterback. Right? Their good players played good even in bad seasons. Like Terry McCurlin was ready for a new quarterback because he was already playing well. They have their 2 interior defensive linemen. Nobody said they quit on the season. The worst thing you can do in a down season is have your good players quit on the season, or the guys that are trying to get a job or trying to be a free agent is quit on your season. So that's just not a thought that I would entertain. But if I had to give you guys an idea of what it really feels like when you're in the situation and how you should view it, ask yourself, what would Mike Tomlin do? His team would go out there and play spoiler. They would play, I mean, doesn't matter what the talent base is. His job is to get his guys to play. Brian Dable's job is to get his guys to play, and your job as players is to play. It's not to lay down for the next season. That's just not how it works. It's not how it should work. And if you are accepting of that mentality, then your culture's never changing and you'll never get your situation turned around, ever.
If you remember Joe Judge's first season here, I mean, it was a mess. The team, I think they won
Mm-hmm.
6 games, but they had a chance to actually make the playoffs because the
Mm-hmm.
division was a wreck. And it came down to that last game of the regular season. Philadelphia was hosting Washington. Jalen Hurts was a rookie. And Philadelphia was winning the game. If Philadelphia beats Philadelphia beats Washington, I think the Giants are getting in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Doug Peterson, for some reason, pulled Jalen Hurts in the second half of the game. Young quarterback, developing quarterback, trying to see what you got out of this kid. Because he was trying to get a better draft pick. Keep the Giants out of the playoffs, get a better draft pick. He got fired. Do you remember Kelsey throwing his helmet on the sideline? Do you remember the anger? Because they were told that they were going to play to win the game, and they saw the coach tank the game. Jim Schwartz resigned as defensive coordinator because his guys went out and played hard. They were so pissed. He lost the locker room. You will lose the locker room if you do stuff like that because these guys are putting their bodies, literally their bodies, on the line to play, and every guy goes out there to play to win.
Yeah, the message to that team is the expectation is that you go out here and you play to win, because here are some of the things that will allow us to win if we can do that. So if you play better on third downs defensively, you have a chance to win. If you cut down on explosive runs defensively, you have a chance to win. If you can execute offensively and just hit the open guy that has been schemed wide open, you have a chance to win. So there are a lot of things there as a football player that you go to work every day to be better. And you have to do those things. You're not afforded the luxury of just quitting because it's a lost season. Nothing's lost until it's over with. There's always something to gain if you're in professional sports, and you're getting paid for it.
Another thing I want to address here, because there's all kinds of things now flying, and you can certainly see that the traditional legacy media types that cover the team, there's already factions. There's some that are being supportive or trying to be objective. There are others that are out for blood for whatever reasons. It doesn't really matter. It's not my battle. However, there's some misinformation out there too. Like I saw Jordan Renan wrote something about the fact that the Joe Schoen is not popular in the Giants locker room because of the Saquon thing and all this other stuff. And Joe Schoen is a lot of players have no use for him. Blah 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 blah. I don't know. Maybe what is it? This new era. GMs usually are not liked by players in the locker room. Carl, you could speak on it from firsthand experience. Phil Simms, Lawrence Taylor, Pepper Johnson, Joe Morris, Jim Burt. We can go down the list. Was George Young popular in the Giants locker room at any point during your time as a player?
I would say borderline hated. And at any given point, he was hated during the course of a negotiation. So, yeah, the fact that Joe Schoen is not liked or allegedly not liked, reportedly not liked in the locker room, well, that's part of the business too. Those guys, that's their job, to do their job. Again, it ain't, like you said, it ain't our battle to fight, but just so that the folks out here that don't have that inside knowledge or the experience in dealing with contract negotiations at the professional football level, you're not going to be liked. General managers are not liked until the contract is signed and you got, partially or the majority of what you wanted. Yeah, you like the GM, but until then, they're not liked.
I'm gonna take our audience into a personal story. And I can't remember if it was after Super Bowl 42 or Super Bowl 46. After the ticker tape parade, the Giants had a celebration in Giants Stadium, and they had one in MetLife Stadium. And I can't remember. I want to say it's Super Bowl 42. But we had a run of show. Okay. So the run of show is okay, the team's going to come in on the stage. Eli's going to be on the stage. Strahan's going to be on the stage, or whatever it was. Justin Tuck. I can't remember what Super Bowl it was. And Jerry Reese is seated right next to me. And before this starts, he leans over to me quietly and he says, am I speaking? Do I have to speak? I'm like, well, Coach Coughlin's going to speak, a couple of the players. I think John Mara. I can't remember what the run of show was. He goes, I don't want to speak. So I said, all right, Jerry, I'll introduce you, but I won't invite you up to the podium to speak. I said, why though? I mean, like, this is a cool moment. And he's like, I'll tell you why. Because I got to make some really hard decisions about some of these guys that just bled for us and gave us everything we got to win this Super Bowl. And I'm going to have to make some hard decisions. And some of these guys are going to be ex-Giants here in the next few weeks, and they don't know it yet. And there's other people I got to negotiate contracts with. And I don't want to come up here in front of an open mic, be emotional, and start saying things that either an agent's going to throw back in my face, but you said this. Or wait a second, you just praised my guy for he goes, I'd rather just not say anything, because now he goes, my tough job starts here over the next couple days and the next few weeks, and I'd rather not say anything publicly.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me. I'm like, that's why GMs aren't liked, right?
Because that's why you don't hear a lot of them talking either, by the way.
Unless you're the Dallas Cowboys GM.
Well, he happens to own the team, so he can do whatever he wants.
So that's a little inside baseball on that. Let's talk about this game. I think there's a sad symmetry to all of this, because on September 29th, 2019, Daniel Jones made his first start as a New York Giant against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa. He threw for 336 yards that day. He ran the ball. Danny Dimes. He's zipping it all over the place. Went on to throw 24 touchdown passes, 12 interceptions in his 12 starts that rookie year. And his time as the starting quarterback of the Giants comes to an end against Tampa, ironically. So now Tommy DeVito is going to get a look. What is it that the Giants are going to have to deal with and DeVito offensively in this game against Todd Bowles' defense?
Well, the offensive line has got a tall task. Todd Bowles' intent in every game is to pressure, and to be unpredictable and non-symmetric, meaning that there's no rhyme or reason for some of the things he does. So you just can't say, okay, on this down and distance, expect this guy. He mixes it up. It's almost like they say he just spins the wheel, and whatever blitz comes up, he calls it. It's just no rhyme or reason. But he's going to try to make Tommy DeVito dizzy. He's going to probably try to give him so much to do, to focus on, that he's just dizzy and making mistakes. The biggest thing that the Giants have to do is their offensive line have to be connected. They can't make multiple mistakes on one play. If one guy gets turned loose, you can't turn them all loose. Give your quarterback a chance. And it's not easy, even with a veteran quarterback playing against Tampa's defense. You've seen it every week. They get to everybody, but you don't want to have a jailbreak against your young, inexperienced quarterback. So you have a tall task just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So if you're making a mistake, it's the mistake that everybody was on the same page for, and they just missed it. but you don't want to have, guys missing blocks, another guy making a mistake, and another guy not knowing what to do because you're going to get the quarterback killed. So that's the challenge that you have when you face Tampa's defense.
And DeVito can't try to do too much, right? He's got to channel. He's got to channel what he did once he got comfortable starting. Remember, because he started 6 games last
Sure.
year, and when he got into a rhythm and he let the game come to him, because he's athletic, he can run a little bit. Um, he can make some off-schedule throws and stuff like that. He doesn't have as big an arm as Jones per se has, but I just hope he doesn't try to do too much too early, because this Bucs defense can make you pay with turnovers.
Yeah, I think he's a pro now. I think, just the experience that he got and just the fact that he's had direct coaching, not one of these deals where you sit in a meeting and you're asked to backup quarterback, do you get this? You get it? You got it? You write this down. He's actually had direct coaching as a starter in this system. So he's a pro now. And I think he knows that you can't do too much at this level or else it costs you. You just have to do your job. And when the situation calls for you to do the things that you can do athletically, if they afford you those opportunities, you can do them. But other than that, you just can't run around and improvise. It's I always say, and this is, apples and oranges, if you will. But you look at the stuff that Caleb Williams was doing at USC, running around and a whirling dervish and making these plays, and every time he did that, he's doing that in Chicago, it ends up with a negative play or he gets sacked and he takes a big hit. So, but it just comes down to when you know how the NFL game is played, you know what you can and can't do and what situations you can do it in.
A lot of fans have asked me, why DeVito? Why not Locke? They signed Locke $5 million. I think they signed Locke because they wanted a veteran on the roster. And at the time that they signed Locke, they had no idea if Daniel Jones would be completely ready for training camp or not. So you wanted to have a veteran guy in here. And then I think Drew Locke's service to the Giants would have been, let's say the Giants were, instead of 2-8, let's say the Giants were 6-4 and Daniel Jones had gotten nicked and he was going to miss a game. I think with a winning team and a winning formula, they felt that, hey, for a game or two or a game and a half, put Drew Lock in there. He can manage stuff. He's a veteran guy, and he can hold the fort until DJ comes back.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't play out that way. And we know that Daniel Jones will not be a Giant next year, and there's a good chance Drew Lock's not going to be on the Giants next year.
Right.
So you have to play DeVito. You have to find out if Tommy DeVito can play well over these 7 games. That, guess what? Maybe then you don't have to go sign a veteran quarterback, whoever your quarterback is going to be, backup. And maybe Tommy DeVito entrenches himself as the backup quarterback for the Giants with an opportunity to compete for a starting job, depending on what they do next year via the draft or free agency or however they address the position, because there is no Andrew Luck in next year's class.
Right.
So, I know, because I saw people talking about, oh, they spent $5 million. Why is he not next up?
Well, here's the other thing too. If you, and I know a lot of these people charted training camp reps. DeVito, in my opinion, outplayed him in
Absolutely.
camp. DeVito outplayed Luck, and that's, you ask why did they sign Locke? Well, because DeVito had 6 pro games, right? And Locke had more experience. But then when they got in training camp, DeVito outplayed him. So he's on the roster for, to be a backup, but then he couldn't beat out Tommy DeVito, but he still has value to the team. You're not going to throw the $5 million away because he still has value, but the next guy up would be Tommy DeVito in this particular type of situation.
Carl, we've seen teams have success running the ball against the Giants here recently. And this Tampa running back tandem of White and Irving are going to put a lot of stress on this defense. Forget about the Baker Mayfield part with the 24 interceptions. Now, he has thrown 24 touchdowns. He has thrown 9 interceptions. The Giants have gone 10 straight games losing the turnover battle. And they haven't even come close to intercepting a pass. I mean, think about
No.
it, their only interception was a tip ball by Dexter Lawrence at the beginning of the season
Yeah.
that Darius Muasau caught. I haven't seen we haven't even called once in a game. Oh, nearly intercepted, dropped. Like they're not even getting their hands on passes. But Baker Mayfield and this running back tandem, forget it, Mike Evans is a whole different set of circumstances, whether he's healthy. But talk about these backs because you did a lot of work on them in Mayfield.
Yeah, they've got backs that will threaten every single gap in your defense. Again, this is it's similar to what they had with Najee Harris. The ball could start one way and end up on the total other side of the center, but they also have really good blocking schemes, meaning your defensive front, if you're tasked with setting the edge, the tie doesn't count as setting the edge because they're going to go around you. Even if you got your guy tied up and you think you're setting the edge in this game means setting the edge, getting off the block and making the tackle because they will press the edge. And if you set it, the running back's going to say, just hold him and I'll just go inside of you, just on the inside of you. Setting the edge means you set the edge and you're able to shed that block and make a tackle because oftentimes, if he gets past the line of scrimmage, the second level defenders are already blocked because they block well with their wide receivers, really good scheme. So the guy who sets the edge has to be the one who dictates where the ball goes back to his help. If you don't, it's Katie bar the door. Those backs are out of there. They are good inside runners. They're good outside runners, and they break tackle. So everything that you're not doing well as a defense is exactly what Tampa threatens you with.
Be good to see Shep back.
Yeah, young
he's
Shep.
he's having success there.
Good for him. He's with his guy Baker. They got their history together, but hopefully they won't be yucking it up with him until the game is over with because they need a win. Again, if I am advising this team, I'd say you go out and you compete your ass off. You play to win, regardless of what people think you should do, because. And this is no offense to those people who are screaming for a draft choice. I get it, but it's not Madden. You just can't keep hitting reset. Players have to play. Players have to prove that they are worthy of an NFL uniform, that they're worthy of their salaries, every single guy. And, I see a lot in not a lot. Some comments in my timeline where it says, well, they don't want to play well because the quarterback sucks. That's just not how it works. It's not. But you go out and you fight your ass off. And I'm like, if you would ask Mike Tomlin, what would he do in this situation? Or what would his expectation be for his players? And this is always, I can always fall back to Mike Tomlin because they don't miss playoffs. And they compete no matter what their record is or where they start, they fight their ass off to be in contention, right? Because you don't know where the league sorts itself out. If you got 6 games left and you can get to 8, right? You see what happens, right? But then that just shows you that you got a team of character and competitiveness. But if you really want to know how this game is played, look at the Mike Tomlin team because they've been written off many, many times during his tenure there. And
Especially both
somehow,
Roethlisberger. I mean, they've done it with some bad quarterback play.
Yeah, and they just go out and they fight. No matter if they're a 3-win team at some point and there's still games left, don't expect them to lay down. And that's kind of the constitution you need to have if you're in a Giant uniform. And your fans, like I said, I get it. but it's not Madden. You can't press reset and think everything's going to be okay. It's only going to be okay if what you end the season with is playing their ass off. Because if you're starting over again to start over again, meaning, hey, we're going to wipe the slate clean and everybody just come in with a fresh new attitude, that's not winning. That's not going to win you games. You come in with a winning attitude, you come in with a competitive attitude, and how do you know you have that? Because you fought your ass off for the rest of the season, and now you're ready. You got the piece that you need. Again, if you need another example, look at Washington. Yeah, you beat Washington every game, but they were never a pushover, right? And even though you were winning against Washington, they were making the playoffs. So what does that tell you? That tells you they're competing when they had some crappy situations too. Those are the things U.S. fans and Giant players need to keep in mind. That's the way this league works. You don't press reset and everybody comes in and play better. You have to play. You're a professional. You have to compete now so that you can compete later. You don't turn the switch on.
All right. I want to just end it with a Daniel Jones thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mentioned his first ever start had the Giant fan base super excited. 336 yards in Tampa, thrilling win. He's running it, he's throwing it. And he did help the Giants win a playoff, get to the playoffs, and win a playoff game. The Daniel Jones of 2024 looks like a completely different player. And all these guys that are on Twitter with their coaches tape, he's not seeing the field. You're 100% right. Like they're putting these videos up, and it is true. But that's not always how he's been. They wouldn't
Yeah.
have re-signed him if what he was doing now, if they saw what he was doing now back in 22, right? They would not
Mm-hmm.
have re-signed him. For whatever the reasons are, his game is kind of falling apart. But I think back to that 2019 game. I think about what could have been for this guy, and there's a lot of circumstances. And at the end of the day, he had a chance to rewrite the script, and he did.
Correct.
But I've talked to several people, former coaches in the league, former GMs in the league, and I kind of just been taking their temperature on them, and they all said the same thing. He's made a ton of money as a first-round draft pick, and this contract that he just got
Mm-hmm.
for the last 2 years. Go talk to Baker Mayfield. Go talk to Sam Darnold. Go talk to some of these other guys. Don't worry about trying to start or compete for a starting job next year.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Denver and work under Sean Payton. Maybe San Francisco. Maybe Minnesota if Sam Darnold leaves as the backup to J.J. McCarthy. Get a year to reboot, recalibrate yourself. Because
Mm-hmm.
Baker Mayfield, who the Giants will see on Sunday, is a perfect example. He got washed out of Cleveland for ridiculous reasons, tried to play through injury. And then in Carolina, he was not good.
Right.
It was not good for him. And he looked like a complete bust. And then he
Mm-hmm.
went to the Rams for that short period, and it kind of changed everything for him. We're seeing what Sam Darnold's doing, although I'm not as sold on Darnold at this point. But the one thing I want to say about Daniel Jones, okay, for the people that want us to say you were right, yeah, you were right. It didn't work out. But I think speaking to smart NFL people that have no ties to this building whatsoever, they've never even worked here. There's a lot of people that are still encouraged about what he could possibly rebuild himself into. But I want to say this, like Giants fans, you got your pound of flesh for those of you that were pounding the guy.
Mm-hmm.
But remember one thing. He gave you everything he had. He came back from an ACL pretty darn fast. He dealt with neck injuries. He's willing to run people over to get the ball in the end zone. He's very well respected and liked by his teammates, as per the comments from Dexter Lawrence on Tuesday, where he talked about him. He never half-stepped it. He never mailed it in. As it turns out, he just wasn't good enough in this incarnation with the Giants. But, give the guy some respect for he gave you everything that he had. And he tried and he worked at it No one
Mhm.
says, oh, he was late coming into the building. He half stepped it here. He gave you everything that you could possibly ask for. It just didn't work out. So I just want to give a tip of the cap to him because he's a good dude and he tried his best and he did everything he possibly could to be successful. It just didn't work out.
Yeah, I think again, he's a kid that's got to get it figured out. His skill set, I think, is there. It's NFL skill set, but he's got to figure it out. It didn't get figured out here, and when he did have his moments, they were inconsistent. I will continue to, root for the kid and hope he reaches the potential that, he has the ability to be. That's all. It didn't work out. I don't take back anything I said, because ultimately the player has to go out and improve it. But, you know, he has an NFL skill set, and I'll stand on that. And I think, most people who evaluate him will say that, but he has to execute. It's not just the skill set, but I'm encouraged and I supported the kid relative to that, and I hope he can lean into that. But it's up to him. It's up to him, and I wish him nothing but the best, and I wish him nothing but success, and hopefully it gets sorted out for him.
Carl, you got anything else?
Nope, that's all I got.
All right. So if you stayed here through the podcast, and I know you have, make sure that you write a review for us on any way that you're listening to the podcast. Go on there, hit like, and write a little review for us. It would be much appreciated. How do we like to end this thing, Carl?
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Believe
Believe
in
in
Giants.
Giants.